It was supposed to be a regular night, just another music festival, just another headlining act. But what unfolded had fans screaming, cameras rolling, and the entire internet spiraling into a frenzy. Picture this: bright lights, pounding bass, and a sold-out crowd packed tighter than a sardine can. Suddenly, Drake steps onto the stage, drenched in designer, sweat glistening, and with a fire in his eyes that screamed one thing: desperation. You see, ever since Kendrick Lamar's earth-shattering diss tracks flipped the rap game upside down, Drake has been on edge. The tension palpable, the jealousy oozing from every move he makes. And tonight, Drake did something no one saw coming. With the crowd barely warming up, he grabs the mic, paces to the edge of the stage, and begs for a mosh pit. But instead of the chaos he was craving, booze. Thunderous, brutal boos that echoed across the venue like a public execution. What happened to the sixth god? Is he spiraling? Was this a pathetic cry for relevance? Or did Kendrick Lamar break Drake in ways fans never imagined? One thing's for sure: after tonight, the feud isn't just lyrical, it's personal. And this time, Drake might not recover. The crowd was buzzing. Not because they were excited, but because they were confused. Something felt ... off. When Drake walked onto that stage, he didn't carry the energy of a global superstar. There was no confident smirk, no effortless swagger. Instead, he looked tense, like a man with something to prove. Some fans thought he might be nervous. Others whispered that he looked shaken. But no one was ready for what came next. The music started, one of his usual hits, but instead of hyping the crowd up, Drake walked straight to the front of the stage, lowered the music, and with a strained grin, shouted into the mic, "Yo, I need a mosh pit right now. Let's go crazy." Silence. A ripple of awkwardness moved through the audience. Then came a few half-hearted screams. And then, like a tidal wave crashing in slow motion, came the boos. Long, drawn-out, unforgiving boos. Fans were looking around, confused and disappointed. Some even started laughing. It was like watching a bad dream unfold in real life. Backstage, people were frozen. Drake's team looked stunned. One of his managers was heard muttering, "What is he doing?" This wasn't part of the set list, and the dancers, they stood there like statues, unsure if they should continue performing or just walk off. Even the pyrotechnics team paused, hands hovering over the buttons. What no one knew, at least not yet, was that Drake had gone off script. This wasn't just an impromptu crowd request. It was an act of desperation, fueled by something deeper, something personal. Ever since Kendrick Lamar's latest barrage of diss tracks took over the internet, Drake had been spiraling, fans thought. He was just ignoring it, taking the high road. But behind the scenes, he was unraveling. People close to him said he became obsessed. He would replay Kendrick's verses over and over, analyzing every line, pacing the studio like a man haunted. He'd call up producers in the middle of the night, demanding beats that sounded heavier, darker, more dangerous. One assistant claimed he even threw his phone across the room after seeing a meme that said, "Kendrick ended Drake's career without even breaking a sweat." And so tonight wasn't just another show. It was supposed to be his comeback moment. The night he reminded the world who he was, except no one told the crowd that. And when the boos rolled in, Drake's face twitched just for a second, but it was enough. Enough to show the pain behind the eyes. Enough to let the world know that this wasn't the reaction he expected. Back at the hotel, word spread fast. Kendrick's camp was reportedly watching the live stream when it happened. According to someone who was in the room, Kendrick let out a low chuckle and said, "Man's begging now?" The room erupted with laughter. It wasn't just about the feud anymore. Had become a game of humiliation, and Drake had just fumbled. The ball dot, meanwhile, social media exploded. Fans were ruthless. Tweets flooded the timeline. Drake really thought he was Travis Scott out there. Man asked for a mosh pit and got a funeral. Somebody check on the Six God? The memes were brutal. One showed a picture of Drake photoshopped into a kindergarten classroom with a caption, "When Kendrick pulls up, Drake gotta go back to school." But what hit Drake hardest wasn't the internet, it was the silence. From his own circle, people who used to hype him up suddenly had nothing to say. His close friend Noah, better known as 40, didn't even text him after the show. Drake noticed. He noticed everything. The missed calls, the unanswered messages. It felt like abandonment. Like betrayal. And then came the twist no one expected. Drake called J. Cole. Sources say the conversation was short but intense. Drake allegedly asked, "Do you think I'm falling off?" To which Cole reportedly replied, "I think you're just lost." That word "lost" hit Drake like a slap. He hung up the phone without saying goodbye. In the days that followed, Drake disappeared from public view. Number stories, no tweets, no paparazzi sightings. Fans speculated he'd gone to Europe, maybe even Japan. Some insiders said he was holed up in a Toronto mansion, not taking calls, not eating properly. One delivery driver claimed he saw an assistant bring 10 boxes of vinyl records to the house, mostly jazz and 70s soul. Apparently, Drake was trying to find inspiration again. But inspiration wasn't the problem. It was humiliation. And the thing about humiliation is it doesn't go away easily, especially not when the whole world saw it live. Then came the most shocking development yet, a leaked studio recording. No one knew how it got out, but the files spread like wildfire. It was Drake venting. Not rapping, not singing, just talking. In a raw, shaky voice, he said, "I gave this game everything. Everything. And now I'm the joke. They don't even see me as competition. They see me as comedy." Those words shook the industry. Suddenly, the jokes didn't feel funny anymore. This was real. This was pain. This was a man who built an empire, now feeling like its clown. And it was Kendrick, without lifting a finger, who had reduced Drake to this. But just when it seemed like Drake might retreat for good, something else happened. A message. Not from an industry peer, not from a fan, but from someone unexpected. Someone who used to be Drake's biggest critic, and maybe his only hope for redemption. And that's where part 2 begins. Because what happens next takes this feud from petty diss tracks to a psychological war no one saw coming. ... The message came at 3:17 a.m. Not a call, not an email, just a voice note. Short, only 8 seconds. And it came from Pusha T. The irony was suffocating. For years, Pusha T had been one of Drake's most relentless enemies. Their beef was historic, nasty, and deeply personal. Pusha was the one who exposed Drake's secret son. He was the one who hit below the belt without hesitation. And yet, here he was, sliding into Drake's DMs in the middle of the night. The voice note simply said, "They're laughing now. But they laughed at me once too. Don't run from a tone. It." Drake didn't respond, not at first. He stared at the screen for hours, replayed it. Over and over. It wasn't an apology. And it definitely wasn't a truce. It was something else, something Drake couldn't quite understand. Was it pity? Was it advice? Or was Pusha just trying to stir the pot? Whatever it was, it lit a fuse inside Drake. The next day, for the first time in weeks, Drake stepped out. Not to party, not to perform, but to walk the streets of Toronto like a man possessed. Fans spotted him wearing all black, hoodie up, headphones in, lips moving like he was rehearsing something. Security followed at a distance. No entourage, no flashy cars. Just a man in his shadow, according to a barista at a local cafe. Drake came in alone, ordered a double espresso, and sat by the window scribbling in a notebook for over 2 hours. He didn't look up once. Not even when a group of college kids asked for a selfie. The barista said the energy was ... heavy, like something was brewing. And she wasn't wrong, because later that night, Drake did something completely unexpected. He went live. Not on Instagram, not on YouTube. On a private, invite-only Discord channel run by underground producers and music nerds. The invite code was leaked within minutes, and by the time Drake started talking, over 20,000 people were listening in. His voice was low, calm, but there was a storm underneath it. Double quotes, "I know what y'all been saying," he began. "I've seen the clips. I've heard the boos. I've read the tweets. And yeah, it hurt. It hurt more than I thought it would." There was silence on the server. No reactions, no comments. It's just raw tension. "But here's the thing," Drake continued. "You think this is the end? You think I'm done? I built this house. I am this game." Kendrick threw punches. Sure, clever ones, surgical. But y'all forgot. I've survived worse. Then he dropped a line that sent chills through the digital crowd. "I didn't come to beg for a mosh pit. I came to see who was real when the lights went off." And with that, he ended the stream. Fans were divided. Some were inspired, others skeptical. "He's deflecting," one commenter posted. "Nah, that man's plotting," wrote another. But one thing was clear. Drake wasn't going to stay down. Not without a fight. Meanwhile, Kendrick, silent. Not a word, not a post. Nothing. And that silence. It was louder than anything he could have said. Fans began speculating. Was Kendrick playing chess while Drake scrambled with checkers? Or was he just watching, waiting, letting Drake spin out of control? Then, out of nowhere, the next twist hit. A mysterious snippet surfaced online. A 42-second clip of an unreleased Drake track titled Echo Chamber. The beat was eerie minimal. Haunting, and Drake's voice sounded different. Colder, older, tired, but dangerous. "You laughed when I stumbled, but I taught you to walk, you crowned him a king, but forgot who made the throne, you want blood? Then ask your favorite to bleed first, 'cause I don't need the crown when I own the kingdom's bones." Fans lost it. The internet cracked in half. Was this a response to Kendrick? A declaration of war? Or a cry for help dressed in poetry? Within hours, #Echo Chamber was trending worldwide. But not everyone was impressed. Critics jumped in, claiming Drake was overreaching. "The King's delusional," one headline read. Others said the track lacked bite, that it was too vague, too safe. But what most people missed, what only the closest insiders noticed, was the final line. Barely audible, layered beneath the chorus. "This time, I won't be alone on stage." It sounded simple, almost throwaway. But it wasn't. It was a clue. Because just a few days later, Drake made an announcement that changed everything. He wasn't going solo anymore. He was building a collective. A new label, a new vision. Not OVO. Something darker, grittier, and leading the charge. A group of underground artists and producers who had never seen the mainstream people, with nothing to lose and everything to prove. He called it Black Mirror Records. No filters, no gimmicks. Just pain, power, and pressure, Drake said during the launch video. And the final shot? Drake standing in the shadows, back to the camera, facing a mirror cracked down the middle. Suddenly, everything made sense. This wasn't just about a feud. It wasn't just about a diss track. This was a transformation. A man shedding his skin, burning down his past to build something new. Something scary. But just as Drake began rising from the ashes, another twist hit him right in the chest stand. This one came from someone he never expected. Because deep in Los Angeles, in a private studio session, someone close to Kendrick's, once considered a friend, was preparing to switch sides. And that's where part 3 begins. Because betrayal doesn't just sting, it scars. The studio was dimly lit, smoke curling in the air, speakers humming with bass as a track looped endlessly in the background. In the center of it all sat Isaiah Rashad, eyes closed, head bobbing, completely locked in. He was supposed to be Kendrick's guy. Part of the Teed family, they shared stages, verses, and years of camaraderie. But that night, everything changed. No one knew Drake and Isaiah had been talking, secretly, quietly, privately. Months ago, before the beef with Kendrick. Even reignited, Drake had reached out with what he called a heart check. Just to artists. No labels, no egos, talking like real ones. Isaiah didn't say much back then. He was loyal to Kendrick, or so everyone thought. But Kendrick's silence, his refusal to publicly acknowledge Drake's spiral, had rubbed more than just Drake the wrong way. Even within Teed, there were whispers. Kendrick only moves for Kendrick, one engineer muttered. He left the team a long time ago. And now, here was Isaiah, not only sitting in on a Black Mirror record session, but actively recording with Drake. When the track leaked, it sent shockwaves. The song was haunting. Isaiah opened it with a line that felt like a dagger to Kendrick's legacy. "You ghosted the team. I stayed on the ground. You talk about kings, but never come down." Fans were stunned. Was this real? Was Isaiah really throwing shade at Kendrick? And worse, was he teaming up with Drake? Social media exploded. One post read, "First the booze, then the Discord call. Now Isaiah Rashad switches sides. Drake out here playing the long game." Another said, "Kendrick better say something soon or he's gonna lose the whole West." The betrayal was deep. People close to Kendrick were furious. Reportedly, Schoolboy Q called Isaiah directly and screamed into the phone for 6 straight minutes. Abyssal refused to comment publicly, but insiders said he ghosted Isaiah completely. The family was crumbling, but the real twist, Kendrick didn't respond. No diss, no statement, nothing. The silence grew deafening. Drake, however, had found a second wind. The backlash from his failed mosh pit moment had turned into a resurrection arc. Fans who once mocked him were now reconsidering. "Maybe this man's really built different," one podcast host said. "He's not just surviving the hate, he's evolving through it." In interviews, Drake remained cryptic. "I don't need validation from charts or tweets," he told a niche hip-hop blog. "I needed to lose the spotlight to find the flame." But even as his new movement gained traction, he couldn't shake the shadows of his past. Because just when it seemed like the tide had turned, Kendrick moved. Not with a diss. Not with a post-dot, with a show. A secret invite-only performance titled "The Silence Between the Bars." No cameras allowed, no phones. Only word of mouth and handwritten invitations. The venue, an abandoned church outside Compton, lit only by candles and stage lights. Those who were there described it as surreal. Kendrick walked on stage alone, wearing a simple white tee and black jeans. No entourage, no openers. He stood there for a full minute, silent, before whispering into the mic. "You've heard a lot of noise lately. Let me remind you what a voice sounds like." What followed was a 40-minute set of unreleased verses, unreleased beats, unreleased pain. There was no direct mention of Drake, but the themes were unmistakably abandonment, loyalty, imitation, and legacy. One verse stuck with the audience long after the candles burned out. They cheer for the echo. Forget who spoke first, but crowns. From shadows always crumble to dust. Word of the performance spread like wildfire. No recordings existed, but fan accounts painted it as legendary. Some called it the rebirth of Kendrick. Others said it felt like a funeral for Drake. And once again, the internet split in two. Some fans said Drake's climb was over, that Kendrick had quietly reasserted dominance without saying a name. Others argued the opposite. Kendrick's still being cryptic, he's scared. One post read, "Drake's out here building a whole new empire." But behind the scenes, both camps were in chaos. Drake had started receiving anonymous threats. Strange packages showed up at Black Mirror Studios. A bullet casing mailed in an envelope. A shredded OVO hoodie soaked in red ink. No notes, no explanations. Just fear. His security team tripled. Producers started wearing vests to late-night sessions. One engineer even quit after finding his car window smashed with the words, "Stop barking." Etched on the hood, no one had proof it was from Kendrick's people. But the message was clear. This wasn't just a lyrical war anymore. Then came the most emotional blow yet. Drake's mother, who had stayed silent through the drama, finally spoke out. In a rare interview with a Canadian magazine, she said, "I raised Aubrey to be strong, but not to be cruel. I don't know who he's becoming, and honestly, it scares me." The quote broke Drake, according to a source close to him. He locked himself in the studio for 48 hours, no food, barely any sleep. He destroyed 3 notebooks, threw a mic stand at the wall, and sobbed into a vocal booth. "They turned my heart into a headline." He was heard whispering it was no longer about the music, it was about the soul. His soul. He was no longer just fighting for relevance. He was fighting to hold on to himself. And that's when he made a decision that would shake the entire industry to its core. If the world wanted a war, he was going to give them one. Not just a diss track. Not just a tour. Drake was about to pull the ultimate card, something that would touch every fan. Every critic, every rapper in the game. And that's exactly where Part 4 begins. Because when Drake's final plan is revealed, no one is safe. Drake didn't sleep, not that night, not the night after. He sat in his studio, headphones wrapped around his neck like a noose. Pacing between walls covered in lyrics, photos, and articles. It looked more like a crime scene than a music space. Red ink circled names, strings tied faces together. In the center of it, Kendrick's face. And above it, scrawled in black marker, "Kill the silence." The plan was insane, unhinged even. But Drake didn't care anymore. This wasn't about sales. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about erasing doubt, destroying every whispered conversation, every meme, every tweet that mocked him. If they wanted a finale, he was going to give them a funeral. First, he sent out private invites to 50 industry insiders. Journalists, influencers, executives, even a few notorious gossip bloggers. The location, a repurposed prison in rural Ontario. No press releases, leaks. Just a single sentence on the invite, "Watch the throne burn." When the guests arrived, they were told to hand over their phones and sign NDA agreements. Inside, the prison was transformed. Spotlights cast eerie shadows across crumbling walls. Speakers hung from the ceiling, pumped a distorted loop of Kendrick's Old versus slowed down, twisted into something almost demonic. Then Drake appeared, not on stage, but in the crowd. He wore a long black coat, hair shaved, face unreadable. Behind him, a screen lit up showing a montage of every headline mocking him. The booze, the failed mosh pit, Isaiah Rashad's mother's interview, all of it. And then, silence. He stepped forward and spoke. "They said I lost, that I begged, that I cracked. Maybe they're right. Maybe I did break. But sometimes you gotta break to rebuild." He pointed at the screen. It changed. Now it showed Kendrick, silent, standing still in the church performance. Frozen, he speaks in riddles. "I bleed in public," Drake said. The crowd didn't know what to expect. Some thought it was a promo. Others thought it was an art installation. But what happened next turned the whole event into legend. The lights dropped, smoke poured in. And then boom, the speakers exploded with the opening beat of a new track. Not just any track. The track. Drake's final blow. The song was called Final Warning. It was 7 minutes of raw venom. No hooks. Just Drake, unleashing everything he'd held back. Every name named. Every moment dissected. He didn't just take aim at Kendrick. He hit Jay, Cole, Pusha T, Isaiah Rashad, even fans and critics. No one was spared. You ghost for 3 years, and they call you a prophet. I bleed for 3 months and they say I lost it. A Q crowned? Him with silence. I carved mine in screams. He preached from a church while I bury these dreams. I begged for a mosh pit. Nah, I begged for the truth and y'all handed me shame and an internet noose. The bars were brutal, but the visuals made it worse. Behind him, the screen played footage, some real. Some clearly staged of Kendrick ignoring fans walking past homeless people. Laughing with execs in suits while artists begged outside studios. It was meant to tell a story that Kendrick wasn't the hero people believed, that the humble poet was just another puppet. When the song ended, Drake didn't speak. He walked out. No goodbye. No bow. Just smoke, silence, and stunned faces. By the next morning, Final Warning had been uploaded everywhere. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. Even pirated versions spread like wildfire. Fans debated its meaning, its honesty, its impact. Some called it a masterpiece. Others said it was a desperate act of a man who had finally snapped. Kendrick once again said nothing. But this time the silence felt different. Not powerful. Empty. Then came the fallout. Isaiah Rashad released a statement saying he regretted everything. He claimed he was manipulated, used, and caught in a war bigger than him. He apologized to Kendrick publicly, but it was too late. Teed removed his name from their artist roster within 24 hours. J. Cole unfollowed. Both Drake and Kendrick on all platforms. When asked in an interview about the drama, he simply said, "I'm not in the middle. I'm out." On the other hand, doubled down. He tweeted a gif of popcorn popping and said, "This is the greatest soap opera I've ever watched." Season finale hitting hard. As for Drake, he went silent, completely silent. No interviews, no live shows, no posts, nothing. Some said he fled to the mountains of British Columbia. Others claimed he was in therapy. One rumor even said he had temporarily checked himself into a silent retreat in Iceland. No one could confirm anything. And still Kendrick said nothing. Weeks passed. Then came the very last twist at the next Grammy Awards. During the Best Rap Album presentation, the announcer paused. The envelope opened and the Grammy goes to Drake. Final Warning had won. The camera panned to the audience. Drake wasn't there, his seat empty, but sitting just 2 rows behind. Kendrick. Stone-faced, arms crossed. And when the crowd stood up to applaud the win, Kendrick remained seated. He didn't clap, he didn't blink. He just stared straight ahead. Fans debated what it meant for months. Was it respect? Was it rage? Was it the end? Or was it just the beginning of a war to personal for the stage? And just like that, the silence became the loudest sound of all. Drake walked away with a Grammy, but left the world with more questions than answers. Kendrick didn't speak, but his stare said everything. 2 giants, locked in a cold war of pride, pain, and power yet. Neither willing to break the silence first. Was Final Warning Drake's last gasp or his greatest masterpiece? Did Kendrick's refusal to engage make him the bigger artist or the quieter aggressor? And most importantly, where does the rap game go from here? Because after everything, the booze, the betrayal, the leaked verses, the secret shows, the mind games, the mother's heartbreak, and the prison performance, one thing is certain. This wasn't just music. This was warfare. And fans were the battlefield. Families were divided. Friendships were tested. The internet still hasn't recovered. And somewhere in a studio no one knows about, one of these men is already working on the next move. But what do you think? Was Drake justified in everything he did to claw his way back to the top? Did Kendrick's silence speak louder than any diss ever could? Or did both men lose something in this war, something they may never get back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're watching everything you say. And trust us, this story is far from over. Make sure to like this video if you want part 2. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss the drama. And tap the bell icon to join our exclusive notification squad. Because in the world of fame, ego, and emotional warfare, there's always another chapter. And here at our channel, we don't just tell the story, we bring the heat. We'll see you in the next one. Stay tuned, stay messy, and stay watching.